We're here with Justin Mott to speak a bit about life, your work, career, get some advice for aspiring photographers, myself being one. So maybe we can take away some interesting things that we can use to further our own careers. Also, right? So let's start at the beginning. Could you tell us how you got started in photography? And did you start with film and transition to digital, or did you start purely with digital?
You know, I started right at the end of film. So I wasn't doing a lot of the development myself. I started, my family all chipped in. I was liking photography. I had a film digital SLR. My girlfriend at the time, the two of us had cameras. So we'd go out and shoot San Francisco. It's a beautiful city. I lived there a few years. We'd go out and explore the city together. But then she kind of got sick of it, and I kept going with it. And then my family all chipped in because I couldn't afford it at the time. I was paying for going to school. I was bartending, trying to make a living in San Francisco. It's an expensive city, so my family all chipped in and bought me a Canon digital ELF, I think it was at the time. Yeah, and it was like the first digital camera I've ever owned. Right? First I actually get to see my pictures that instantly, so all of a sudden the learning curve changed. I felt like I got a lot better, a lot quicker, and I would take that camera out on the weekends. I would work so hard. I work 5 days a week and go to school 5 days a week, and then my weekends were my time to relax. So I would take that camera out and explore the city. That's when I sort of really got into photography for a hobby. And then at school, I was studying journalism. I was studying writing. I had to take a photography course. And I thought, well, this is great. I like journalism, I like telling stories, and I love photography. And so that photography class took me outside the classroom. So I was bored inside the classroom. I needed to be out and meet people, and tell stories and explore and be creative, and that allowed me to do that. So ever from that, like since from that class, and that class started, I fell in love. It wasn't a thing like, oh, how am I going to make this work? It was, I will make it work. There's no other option. I'm going to be a professional photographer.
So going off on a tangent with your comment about photojournalism and having to take a photo class for journalism. Many of the photographers today don't necessarily have the writing background to break into the market, because I think more of the publishers are now looking for someone that does both. They won't send 2 people on an assignment. They'll send 1.
Yeah, well, they tend to do it the other way. They tend to take the writer and teach photography, then have the photographer learn how to write. But I think if you have that background in telling stories and understand what a story's about, understanding a narrative, then you can go do it. So yeah, I think not a lot of people do have that skill. Because now, for me, I've transitioned into also doing commercial photography. And for commercial photography is really still telling stories. So if I'm doing a hotel shoot, I'm telling the story of that hotel, I'm telling the story of that brand. Around the destination wedding photography business, we're telling the story of that day. That consistency of telling a story is in all of my photography. So I think that training for me was huge. I mean, that sort of put the roots in who I am as a photographer. But yeah, I mean, I think to sort of answer your question, I think no, people do have that skill. So I think people they lack that because you learn one or the other, right? Mm-hmm. And now I think the trend goes the other way more. There's writers that learn how to shoot, but not a lot of shooters that learn how to write.
Yeah. Okay. So when you saw that you would be doing this full time, what made you decide to Southeast Asia to do?
Good question. Actually, when I was at school, I knew I loved photography, but there wasn't a lot that I was inspired to shoot in the United States. I mean, I love my country, I love my people, but I wasn't that excited. I liked it, but I wasn't like inspired. I came out to Southeast Asia as a backpacker for a few months with my camera, and I loved it. I mean, I was excited. I was taking pictures all day. And I wasn't just working on one story, I was working on 3 or 4 stories. So I started telling stories in Cambodia after a workshop with Gary Knight, who's a Canon ambassador, I believe. He did a documentary workshop, and I realized I like the storytelling part. I'm not so much a news photographer, but features and stories, and I like a little bit about everything. But Southeast Asia was inspiring to me. But Cambodia was fun to shoot. It was beautiful. I was intrigued. I was curious. Vietnam felt the same way. So I started stories on my trip here to Southeast Asia for a few months, and then when I moved back to San Francisco, I found myself drawn back here. I wanted to come back and finish those stories. I had started stories, I was into them, and then I was taken away, and I thought, I took myself away, but I felt like I learned what I needed to learn in school. And so I stopped a year early and moved to Vietnam. moved to Cambodia and then to Vietnam, but I left school a year before I graduated. You know, in photography, yes, I think it's important to go to school, but it's really your portfolio and your experience as a photographer. It's not your degree.
So when did you realize that? At the end of your school?
I would say at the end of my trip, when I came out to Cambodia, went to Cambodia and to Vietnam as a backpacker, maybe 2005, and I really liked traveling around with my camera, and then 2006, 2007 is when I decided to commit to making a living out Southeast Asia.
You've done nearly all genres of photography, from documentary to travel, so you travel, portraits, wedding, now you're doing commercial stuff. Which genre do you think you are most focused on now, and why?
Ooh, good question. I mean, I wouldn't say one more than the other because it's not fair to any of my clients. But no, I mean, for me, I didn't get into one or the other because, I thought the market's going this way or going that way. I like all different genres of photography. So, you know, when I just shot a wedding in Poland, I mean, that was fun. I got to experience culture. It's similar to shooting a travel story in a country you've never been to because you're there, you're experiencing something cultural wedding, and you know, I'm seeing it with fresh eyes and seeing something new. So I think I am different in my photography than I do all these things, but the element that is the same is the human, the natural side, and the storytelling side. So I love them all, but I love them all for different reasons. Each one is the puzzle, right? The photography, it's how do I make a beautiful picture in this environment? How do I tell you a story? How do I tell this story? I love that. That's the part for me that I thoroughly enjoy. That's where my passion is.
Another tangent. I've considered myself trying wedding photography, but I put myself in a position where I don't know the culture because I don't know the culture. I'm not actually from Singapore. I'm actually from Canada.
Okay.
So I came to Singapore and I'm going, can I shoot a wedding when I don't know the culture? How have you worked around that? I mean, you go to Poland and you know, Polish. Who knows what they do? You know, throw glasses in a fireplace. I don't know. Here, you know, they serve tea, right? And you know, you have advice for people that want to break into this industry and don't know anything about it.
But photography is all about learning on the fly, right? So even a travel assignment I'm doing or a portrait, it's you're solving a puzzle and you need to learn how to think on your feet, right? If I'm doing a portrait for someone, I did a story on Vietnam's first billionaire. I had 15 minutes with this guy. So I've got to figure it out. I've got to solve that puzzle. But use your experience as a photographer and apply it to each assignment, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking, okay, I like light like this, or I like my composition like this. All that applies to each shoot that I do. So all my experiences help with all different kinds of genres of photography. So yeah, I think the advice is just have your consistent style in everything you do. I mean, photographing a wedding in a different country, it's just a different story. It's just another story. You're still telling the story. You're still looking for nice light, nice composition, nice moments. All the essence, all the heart of your images is still there in everything you do. But some people get nervous about that. I think for me, that's the exciting part.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah, the challenge is there, but the nervousness.
I like that. I think
the butterflies.
But like anything, you just do it. And you know, you're meeting someone. For me, I'm meeting someone on the most important day of their life for the first time, and I'll be the closest person besides their significant other that day, following them around. But it's also, that's beautiful. They'll have those images for the rest of their lives.
You've had works published on international media outlets, New York Times, Forbes, and many others. What aspect or element of your work do you think made them so impactful and distinctive for them to take on these works?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I mean, I hate to keep repeating the storytelling thing, but it really is the essence of my photography, and I think my portfolio was built on a couple photo stories that I did. So learning how to tell a story on my own time, I think they saw those images and they created a story building that. So I think tied into advice for younger photographers too is you'll be judged off of that. You know that. So if you spend one day in a story, you're not going to capture those moments. You spend several weeks or even years on a story, no one knows the difference, right? When an editor's looking at it, they don't know you spent. They just care which story made them feel something. So yeah, I mean for me that was having that as a core in my portfolio. I mean it was strange, right? Editors are hiring me to do travel stories in beautiful color, but my portfolio was black and white, really dark, depressing stuff. But I think they cared that I did They knew how to tell a story, and they cared about. The other thing for if you're going to travel around for major magazines, they need to know that you're going to come through. Like this, my teacher always told me this: there's never an excuse in your caption. Justin didn't get the photo because they don't want that. They don't. Yeah, they don't care. I mean, I'm being hired from New York or London or wherever it is, and they're just, you're supposed to know this region. Go out and do it. It's different when you were a newspaper photographer in the U.S. Your editor would help set, and also how it used to be too. The editor would help set things up a lot now. Now it's, you're not even going out with the writer anymore. The writer's already wrote the story. You're going in afterwards. You figure it out, or you figure out how to create this. I don't care how you do it. Just do it. So when you show them, you can do things on the fly. Like when I went to Bangladesh, got access into a factory. My editor did nothing. He called me afterwards and said, "Thank you. I know I can trust you. I know that I can say, Justin, here's an email. Here's where you're going. Get it done." That's the new age. Get things done fast.
Recent project. Your most recent project, what was it?
It's Photo Face Off. The reason we want to go is the television show with History Channel, and sponsored by Canon, and it's all based on the Canon Photo Marathon. So you have, the Canon Photo Marathon, you have different challenges throughout the day. And so this show is the first of its kind, a reality show, where I go head-to-head in Southeast Asia against different amateur local photographers. So it's supposed to be me sort of kicking their butts, but we'll see what happens. But they also have the local edge. Some countries like in Thailand speak the local language. I don't. You know the culture a little bit more, but it's also. But this is what I do for a living. This is fun. So it's like a TV show about being an assignment photographer, and it's almost like a sport. It's going head to head. Normally in my photography, I'm going up against myself, right? I'm trying to please an audience. Now I'm trying to please a judge, and not just take a nice picture, but take a better picture than my competitor. So for me, it was like, I think in anything, it gave me a little bit of butterflies in my stomach when I heard the idea, because I thought, well, what do I have to gain by this if I lose? It looks bad.
Do I lose face?
Yeah, but you know what? I don't care. I mean, I love it. It's my passion. It's what I do. It's where my energy is. When I'm not shooting, I'm thinking about photography, I'm editing. So I thought, whatever. I win or lose, it's going to be a lot of fun. And photography is subjective. That's what's beautiful about it. So you might like my photo better, or when I won, you might have thought I should have lost, things like that. I like that. I think that's fun. The debate about what makes a good picture is always interesting.
So you've competed against 5 local photographers, Southeast Asia, so Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, in the photo face-off. I think you've already covered, the nervousness and stuff.
Yeah.
So challenges.
All sorts of crazy stuff. And that's what was fun about it. It's like some of these things we would never do in a real assignment, but it's the essence of photography. It's here's a situation, go. But it was like all of a sudden, boom, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, not a whole day or 2 days or 3 days. So some of the challenges, we had to photograph at a bee farm. So we had to do a macro shot of bees. I got stung. Thought it was 2 times, I got stung 4 times. Had to photograph a portrait of an elephant. We had 2 elephants, we could direct them to do whatever they want. So all the different challenges were based on different kinds of photography. We did photograph charging bulls, and they were racing, so it was like sports photography. The elephants was more like portrait photography. Going out and shooting in Singapore and shooting in the park was more like a travel story. So all different elements, so many crazy challenges. I mean, the final episode, they're shooting from a paraglider, they're shooting underwater. It's everything. There's a reason they call it extreme challenges. They're crazy.
Okay.
Luckily, I was never hurt. Stung, but never really injured.
As long as you're not allergic to the sting.
Yeah.
It's an EpiPen.
That would have been fun. I don't know if they had one.
That would have been good on the show.
We're 2 hours away from that anyway.
So Canon sponsored. So what kind of Canon gear did you have access to and did you use?
Yeah, so for the show, we were given every different challenge, we were given a different camera.
Oh, that's
so I mean, everything from the Nexus 2-point shoot to the 1DX.
Wow.
So we had a huge spectrum of cameras, to the ends, 6D. So it was wild. We used every different camera for different challenges. For me, I'm used to using 5D1.3. I'm most comfortable with that, using a point and shoot, but still the basic rules of photography apply. You have a dedicated camera, go out and take a picture. So you had to adapt, but that was kind of the fun part of the challenge. It kind of equaled the playing field too. If we all use the 5D1.3, I think I've got more of an advantage because it's something I use all the time.
So the equipment is not necessarily the key in the photography process. It's the person behind the camera.
As a photographer, you like to think that, but you know, it does contribute to what you can do if you understand your. For me, I use 90% of fixed L series prime lenses because I know what those lenses can do in low light, and I know how to use them at 1.4, or even I know that 2.8 is a sweet spot on a 1.4. Things so like knowing what that camera, knowing what your camera can do, knowing what your lenses can do, takes you to the next level. But yeah, I think the essence of photography is you, your vision. It's not always your eye. I think people sort of like to take credit for, oh, you have a special eye. I think it's more of what you develop over time, teaching yourself to take chances in photography, breaking the rules and things like that.
So having mentioned some things about focal length and aperture, do you have a favorite focal length?
Yeah, absolutely. For an entire year, my first year, it was mostly, started as personal projects, but then I started picking up assignment work. I used the 35-1.4 for all my assignments. I had 100 in my bag just in case, but I shot every single assignment. Professional assignments for international publications with just that lens, and it made me a much better photographer. It made me move, it made me think more, it made me understand just that length and not think about being lazy, like I wasn't zooming so much. There's a time and a place for zoom lenses, but for me, most of the stories that I could move, I could get close. So instead of being back here with that zoom,
intimate with your
absolutely
subject.
Yeah, you really can, and it really makes you think about moving around and shooting through things, and I really understood that 35 and that distance, and it's such a versatile lens too, because it's wide enough on a full frame camera to do a travel story, but you can also do portrait.
You've certainly received a lot of recognition through your career. Any significant recognition that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think for me, it was in the beginning when I first started telling stories, when I realized stories got out there, and when they're seen in Newsweek or Time, New York Times, and when people react, that meant something to me. Because some of the stories I've done on, just during Agent Orange in Vietnam, and people reacted and wanted to donate. And so to be able to like middleman something like that, and to get you do the story, you get it out, and people react to do one. And so you get to, for me, is you get to meet special people and get to tell other people's stories and connect the dots a little bit. I mean, those stories, I'm still shooting some of these stories, and they're still a part of my life, and the subjects are still a part of my life. So those are the stories that stay with you when you had a meaningful connection with people, and when you connected the dots with people. It makes you feel like photography can be powerful. People can be moved by it, and not always. You do some stories and people could care less, but sometimes people react to do wonderful things. So it's special to me to be involved.
I find that a lot of the photography that people get moved on tend to be more dark, more morbid. So what do you think? Is this human nature that contributes to that, or is it just because it pulls on your heartstrings? You never see or not never. You hardly see happy clown story or something.
Yeah, there's a lack of happy stories out there, right? And I think it's something I've tried to concentrate on more too. Is like there's happy stories to tell too, but there's a time and a place for both. I think people. For me, photography is if you can make someone feel something, then I've done a good job. So I don't always need them to feel sad. Early in my career, maybe I felt that way because that's what you look at as a photojournalist. You're looking at conflict, you're looking at disaster. But now I like both. I just want to celebrate life. So my image, I'm trying to think deeper. You don't have to feel sad. You could feel curious. You could feel happy. You could feel excited. I don't know. If you feel anything from an image now, then I feel like you've done a good job. And that's what I strive for. I want you to feel it. I don't want you to forget my image. I want it to stay with you. It doesn't have to be because you're sad. It could be because, it's a travel picture. You're curious, right? You want to go there. If I took a cool picture in a remote place in Myanmar, and you're like, I'd like to go there. Then I've done my job.
As a gearhead, the person that likes to acquire. A lot of companies sell based on specifications and so forth. Do you think too much emphasis has been put on gear and just how sharp it is, or how much bokeh there is? You talked about shooting on prime. 35, 1.4, you go and shoot everything on prime. You learn a lot. Move around, coming through. Do you think too much emphasis has been put on that latest 50 mm or 85 that has, lines per inch or whatever, sharpness?
if you know how to use it to your advantage, then it can't be too much emphasis, right? I mean, if a new camera comes out and it can shoot in extremely low light, like the jump for the 5D, original 5D, I mean, you can shoot dark, it was a game changer. If you just get it and don't use it, then it's a waste. But if you understand how to use that one for, you understand that your subject will pop, it has a different color to it, or you understand that your camera can crank it up to whatever, 4,000 ISO, or now it's crazy. I mean, now you can go to 12,000, but if you understand what its capabilities are, I don't think there could be too much emphasis. But if you don't go out and shoot, all that's a waste. So yes, some people I think are go out here and don't go out and shoot, but you got to take it and go out and use it, and sometimes simplify your gear. I mean, I have all these different lenses and different cameras, but I know for a wedding, this is a kit I like because it works for my style, it works for what I'm trying to do, and I know it needs to be a little bit lighter. On a commercial shoot, I can work with an assistant, carry some of my stuff around, I can work on a bag that's not so jump here, jump there, so I can have a bigger load. On an editorial assignment or a news sort of feature story or wherever, I want to be really light, and so I'll go out maybe one camera and one lens. So yeah, I think gear's important. I like gear too. I'm a gear person, but it's not everything as a photographer. Use it to make you better, not to make up for that you're not good.
So talking about advice, what advice would you give to budding photographers, aspiring photographers who would like to follow in your footsteps?
Work your butt off. Nowadays you have to be able to promote yourself. You have to be able to be a versatile photographer. If you just shoot food, it's tough these days. If you just shoot travel, it's tough these days. But if you shoot a little bit of everything, but you have to enjoy it too. If you shoot weddings, you don't like it, your clients will see that, your pictures will show that. So be passionate about what you're shooting. I think that's so important. Really care about what you're shooting. And also, to go to the level of being a good photographer, you follow certain rules. Rule of thirds, you follow, you shoot like this and like that. But if you always do that in your career, then you'll be in this mass bubble of every other photographer. And who wants to hire someone in that mass bubble? At some point in your career, once you learn the basics of photography, you need to start breaking this and experiment. And you're going to fail sometimes, but trying different things. That could be overexposing a little bit, or shooting into the sun, lens flare coming through. Taking chances with your photography. You can't always do it on assignment when the client's paying you, but you could allow a little bit of time on the assignment. Get the shot that you know is going to be good, but then try something. But then on your own time, experiment. So if you're always working on a story, whatever it is, the best stories to work on is in your neighborhood because it's always accessible. But you will, out of boredom taking the same shot, you will come up with some new ideas. You'll get creative. So yeah, I think if you always follow the rules and you think this is it, this is what I am as a photographer, you'll be better than other people maybe, but you'll be in this mass bubble. I think clients want someone with a unique vision and that understands if you want to go into commercial photography, how do you apply your vision and your style to what they need? That's important too. If you're so stubborn as a photographer, you might not get work as well.
Yeah. So you talked about you've given a lot of, I've read through some of your blog posts. And you actually covered some of your advice about your rules and a lot of stuff that you posted on there, the guidelines for aspiring photographers. You think that you said that you end up in this bubble. You think some of those aspiring photographers that end up in that bubble eventually break out because they have that extra thing? Is there an extra thing, a special thing?
Yeah, well, photographers like to tell you the extra thing is they have a creative eye. But when I started off my first workshop, I was the worst student in the class. It's not all that talent. I think that's a very self-aggrandizing thing to say, right? So talented. It's not that. I did a workshop with 10 photographers. I was the worst one 7 years ago. Now I'm the only one who's a professional photographer. So it's staying with it and working hard and just always evolve as a photographer. If you get so stubborn, you're not going to get better. I'm good. If you don't like my photos, fine. Well, that's not a good attitude, I think. But I don't know what works for other people. I can only speak for me. What works for me is evolve and have something to say with your photography. Have a vision that you like and understand and that you believe in. But always build on that. And always, when you shoot commercial work or weddings, you need to also please your client too. So find that balance, right? Work together with people, and I think you'll become a better photographer. So breaking away from the bubble is pushing yourself, experimenting, really push yourself hard creatively.
How about critiques, criticisms? Something that, like you say, some photographers are stubborn in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, they have their way. It's their way or the highway.
Yeah.
You know, you see a lot of websites now, in particular 500 pics,
Yeah.
bigsoto.com. Do you think that they're useful in building a aspiring photographer's career?
Yeah, as long as you don't just follow that. I mean, it's the same with looking at other photographers' work for inspiration. You know, if you just, I like to pull from not just photojournalists, but look at fashion photographers, look at commercial photographers, look what people are doing in all different genres. This will make you a better photographer. I think all those resources are important, but follow your heart, man. When it comes to photography, like, you know, try, be passionate about what you're doing, follow your heart, and yes, use these resources. They're great resources online, but if everyone just follows the same rules, you're just going to shoot like those guys, you know? So to be different, you need to separate yourself. How do you do that? You have to feel it.
So talking about resources, are there any websites other than your blog and commercial website that shows your images? Do you have any advice for photographers to where they can go?
Sure. I work with them a lot, but New York Times Lens Blog. I love Lens Blog. Lens Blog does a lot of different stories on it's mainly documentary and photojournalism based, but I like that. Taking workshops, I think is good. There's different workshops all around the world. There's Foundry Workshop, which is good. These are more for people that are interested in storytelling, but it allows you to dedicate 1 week or 5 days just to photography, right? I think that's so important. You can forget everything else. You're not shooting for an hour, you're shooting all day long. And you'll evolve through that course. And you're around like-minded people doing like-minded things and all about photography. So I think finding a workshop that suits what you're interested in, finding the right teacher, that's important. I love Lens Blog. I like to just look at the World Press winners every year. There's a World Press photo, has all different winners from all around the world. It's a lot of documentary photojournalism, but still, that's for me. Even if you're into nature, you can learn things from that. They actually have a nature club too. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun talking.
Sharing and talking and having a few laughs.
Cool.
It's great.
Yeah, I had fun.
We hope to see more of that laughter and craziness on Face Off.
It's a wild, crazy show.
And season 2.
I hope.
Yeah. Thanks again.
I hope so.
And enjoy the rest of your stay in Singapore.
Cool. I absolutely will. I love it.
We'll run into each other again.
Cool. Absolutely. Cool. Thanks.
So we're coming to the end. So a little bit fun. You started with film just on the edge. You still have the film camera?
Do I?
And is it a Canon?
Of course it is.
Yes, it's a Canon. It's an
No, I don't have a film camera anymore.
Oh, really?
I don't. No.
I thought I'd seen your blog about a Hassie.
I did. I sold it.
Oh no. So
I did have a Hasselblad and I sold it because I couldn't use it on assignments, and I've been busy with work and I never get to use it
Right.
personal stuff. So I sold it. I like film too. It's fun, and I didn't start in that age, so I don't have the nostalgia for film. A lot of photographers talk about it.
And so, what would be the oldest camera in your dry box? Or oldest?
Well,
lens?
my retired original 5D just sits there. Sits on my desk because that's where I started with that camera as a photographer. For me, that was it. That was the camera the first year of my crazy life trying to make it as an assignment photographer. That's it. I don't think I have anything older than that. I wish I had a cooler camera for you.
It's okay.
But that camera to me was like that.
That was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, Canon 5D.
And I ran that camera into the ground. It took damage. I mean, I put it in mud and dirt and rain and crazy storms and underwater in a bag, but it got wet. I mean, that camera was awesome to me.